Before I got on a call with Active Life, we had just entered COVID world, and we were trying to figure it out like everyone else, every other business owner was trying to do at that time, and came to the conclusion that there were really only two options for us. We were gonna double or triple down on our investment and energy towards trying to make it work, or we were gonna decide to close up shop and say we had a good run. Forced me to really understand what it was that we were actually committing to. I believed that if we were gonna do it and it didn't work, we were gonna die. If we didn't do it, then we were gonna die. So either way, there was two ways to lose and one way to win. I am Mike DeMarco, owner of Motives Movement in Millstone, New Jersey. For 5 years, the first 5 years of the business, we were just trying to look at the other gyms that were like us, the other CrossFit gyms, and just try to identify what was making them successful from our point of view, and just copy them and mimic them to the best of our ability, but without ever really knowing what went into the thing you saw on the outside of what they were doing. We spent 5 years doing that on the business side, but personally, for us as we were running the business, I don't believe we were all into the idea of this is a business. It was a very successful hobby. We were like neck deep in the CrossFit world and the sexiness of trying to make it to regionals. You know, at that time, wound up going to Wadapalooza every January for 3 years in a row. For me, I guess as the captain of the ship at that time, I was looking around at other gyms, and my idea of what was gonna be the tipping point for us to make it per se would be for me to qualify for regionals and get sponsored by these things, because that's what everyone else was doing. And so I was training for three and a half hours a day, oftentimes twice a day, traveling to other gyms to train, and not using that 3.5 hours a day to get off the floor and work on the business. And so for the first 5 years, we were existing like that. After the 5th year, our business was somewhat floundering. It was just it was what it was. Even with more people coming in, it wasn't really growing like we thought when you assume volume is the answer.
We had just bought our home in October, and then a couple of months later, COVID hits, and next thing you know, everything was shut down, and it was pretty scary for business owners. I think in specific, it's like kind of emotional sometimes, because I look back and think like inspiring, and to see someone like so just driven and not willing to like give up. And he wasn't gonna let that ruin it, and he wasn't gonna let COVID be the reason why the gym didn't survive.
And so in the midst of our COVID conversations internally, we said, okay, do we wanna go forward? Yes. If yes, that means radical change. And so I believe that Active Life was the only answer for us at that time to invest in radical change. There was a lot of friction at that time too. When I brought the idea of working with Active Life back to those meetings between the three of us, it was split. Like, I was all in. Tommy didn't want to do it, and Joey was our friend, and he was like, I'll do whatever you guys want to do. I appreciate that Tommy challenged it, because it forced me to really understand what it was that we were actually committing to.
we have a meeting, Mike brings up Active Life and says, I think we should start working with them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We don't have money to pay me. Half our membership is gone and we might not ever open a full capacity again. And my mind was in a different place at that point. I had felt like we had never been able to follow through on anything else that we tried to implement to an extreme level. We were still putting out a good product forward-facing to our people, but back-end stuff was always frustrating. To implementing some of the stuff that we thought might work never came to fruition. So when he comes to the idea of we're going to spend a lot of money per month to work with a company to revamp everything we do, that's going to make us lose some of the members we have now, seemed crazy to me. So I was the devil on his one shoulder, trying to be like, I don't see any success on the other side of this, basically.
We chose Active Life amongst all the other options in the midst of our COVID conversations, because in those conversations we came to the conclusion that if we were going to keep doing it, it was going to require radical change from the inside out.
Our initial rate hike was middle of COVID, and that was the hugest pushback that we've had to deal with. And I was the one taking the entire brunt of it because I was in the gym every day with all the members. Mike sends out the email the night before, hey, we're going from whatever your rate is now. There were people paying $80, maybe less, from 2013. And then it went from that to $195. There's no packages, there's no days per week. That's the only option.
So when he told me about the rate increases, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous too, because I'm like, okay, but with everything going on, do you really think that that's like the best decision right now? And again, he was kind of like, well, yes, because if that's not the decision we make, then we have to close the doors tomorrow. He was pretty stressed about that, and there was a lot of, I think, sleepless nights for him when that decision was being made.
The COVID price increase was one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life. I remember it taking me about 2 weeks to press send on the email. It also took me about 6 hours in here by myself, in front of a camera, trying to clearly explain where we were coming from with the price increase, because I wanted them to hear it from my voice. And at that time we weren't in person as a group. And so our business to that point was very heavily grown on our interpersonal relationships that we had with all of our members. And so it was really scary for me. It was the second biggest thing that we had done. The first biggest thing we had done was commit to this investment with Active Life. The second big thing was then being challenged to say, hey, if you don't do this, it's not gonna work either. And it took time for me to have a full handle, and again, I believe it started with me internally to believe that that needed to be true. And then we were able to go about increasing the prices.
And a lot of people felt hurt from it, like we were doing something wrong, like we were cheating them out of money. Why are you doing this in the middle of COVID? And I tried to reason with them and make sure, and let them know that I saw their concern. They thought they knew what they were gonna be getting, but then slowly putting in the different subliminal messaging, almost like what our coaches talk about, what we educate our coaches on, what we put on our social media, what our workouts look like, little by little started to make that switch happen. And it's not for everyone. So being okay with people stepping away and helping them on their way, and leaving it on good terms, and knowing that, hey, they do very well with a class model that offers them clang and bang style workouts. But the people that could really use our help are taking full advantage of it and have changed their life.
going from CrossFit now into what they're evolved into. It's been such a transformation, and honestly I see way less injuries in my life even, of like just in the past I would get hurt with this little thing, and from that point on, like I started getting like frustrated because I'd miss out on the gym every so often. And now I feel like I'm here way more because they've evolved into a better programming system, and they're always worried about like how we're recovering, and it's so well thought out, all of their programming and everything, that you see like the progression over like weeks at a time. So I feel like they've just became more realistic rather than CrossFit's this like level of like intensity that sometimes you don't want to feel like that injured or hurt or like sore and just feel like almost like crippled sometimes. And then now like it just became a more realistic gym that fits like your everyday needs for me.
Mike was very, very deliberate, and he was very transparent in explaining the mission, being forthcoming to the membership about here's what's coming and here's why. It wasn't, hey, I got a bunch of money because you guys sent me a lot of money during COVID and now I'm going to put an end to this. No, it was very, very purposeful with, we're investing in you, and the plan is that you're going to be better for this.
And they've normalized, I think, that broad range of like, nobody's looking at me different because they're all doing sled push in a class and I'm doing a circuit on the side of a core or a strength, and you might have somebody else doing a private, what they call, one-on-one coaching somewhere else. It's kind of like everybody comes in like, oh, okay, they're doing a class, he's doing his thing, she's doing her. It's kind of like a normal community feel.
The price increase led to us being in a better position to offer a service that is a value that you can't even put an X on what we used to offer. We are no longer dependent upon needing 200 members a month just to pay ourselves. We don't want that, we don't need that, and we don't believe that that's even feasible to be able to change someone's life. Since we signed up, we are 3.5x the day we signed up. Since January 2021, I'll bring up January 2021 because I feel like that's when I felt like we were just starting to hit our stride with everything, because it takes time for us to install all of these new strategies. Since 2021, January, 2.5x.
Pretty amazing to be where we are today and step into this facility every day and see the size of it and how far we've come. And there's actually a picture that we have on Facebook that comes up every year that reminds us of what we came from. It's a picture of Mike holding the barbell up in the original gym, and we like to look at that every year just as a reminder, like, wow.
If we didn't get on a call and agree to the commitment that was asked of us for joining, because it wasn't as easy as just signing up. There was a process of, we want to make sure that you guys are a good fit for us. And so there was a certain level of commitment on our end that was required for us to even join ProPath. And so if we never did that, like, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. And that's not just like I'm dead serious. Like, it's not, I'm not just saying that to make this more like emotional or passionate. We wouldn't be here. This gym would not exist. I guess ultimately, if we never signed up with Active Life, there would be hundreds and thousands of people that we've had touch points with in the past even 3 years that would never have been given the opportunity to take responsibility for where they were in life, where they wanted to go, and like their health and wellness. And without that, I don't know where those people would be or how they would be.